Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, a liberal religious community that has been meeting for more than 125 years. My name is Catherine Hyde and I am the Sunday Associate this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we agree to keep each other company, supporting one another on the journey of life. We ask questions about what our lives mean, and we try to become the very best version of ourselves we can. Each of us answers the big questions in our own ways, and we are okay with that here. We don't force each other, but let each other think for ourselves. We do share a belief in love that can heal and transform, and a belief in our interconnection and interdependence. We also believe in the beauty of human diversity, and all of us are welcome here, no matter our age, race, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, theology, or education. If you want to know more about the congregation, who we are, and what we do, please fill out a green sheet in the foyer in Anderson, or fill out the form that is being dropped in the chat on Zoom. There will be a coffee hour after the service today for snacks and fellowship. Please stay and join us. Folks on Zoom, you will have your own opportunity to chat and visit, so please don't drop off when the service ends. This morning, we welcome our guest, the Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano. His pronouns are he and him, who is minister of the UU congregation of Monmouth County in Lincroft, New Jersey. He was ordained to the ministry in 2018 by the UU congregation of Princeton, New Jersey. Craig is a graduate of Yale College, Columbia University, and Princeton Theological Seminary, where he completed a PhD in pastoral theology in 2019. He lives at the summit of 10 Mile Run Mountain, just north of Princeton, where he has helped to raise 2 nieces and 2 Nigerian dwarf goats. As we begin, please take a minute to silence your electronic devices so that we can be truly present with one another. Thank you once again for joining us and giving us each the courage to live our lives authentically.
And thank you for that welcome. I'm so pleased to be here at Ridgewood for the first time. And yes, it's beautiful. I enjoyed the art in the back. Our opening and closing hymns this morning are musical settings of poems written by siblings. So later we'll hear from older brother and abolitionist Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. But now please join your voices in singing our opening hymn with words by Unitarian pastor and transcendentalist Henry Wadsworth's younger brother, Samuel Longfellow. O life that maketh all things new. It's number 12, and I believe they'll be on the screen. And if you rise in body and in spirit, as is your custom, go ahead.
We have not done this in many years, so I will play it through once for you.
Excellent.
The chalice is a central symbol of Unitarian Universalism, reminding us of the holy spark in each of us and of our interconnection as one family, beautiful in our differences and united in our humanity. Please join in the words for lighting the chalice. They are on your screen. We light this chalice for the hope of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community.
We invite you to use this time to take a deep breath and center yourselves with the ringing tone of our singing bowl. So this morning we'll explore what it takes to approach embodying the world about which we dream, how community gets created among us in our uniquely creedless religious movement, what is necessary to widen the circling boundaries of our concern. And I'll give you a hint, it takes a whole lot of imagination. Our opening words this morning come from Irish poet, playwright, and barrier breaker Oscar Wilde. Yes, I am a dreamer. For a dreamer is one who can only find their way by moonlight. And their punishment is that they see the dawn before the rest of the world. I invite us to sing our hymn of the month. Jazz Alleluia. Is that true? It's the hymn of the month? Okay. Do we rise for this one?
Sure.
Sure, if we like. In body and or spirit.
We'll get some exercise.
Exercise.
Good morning. My name is Mary Mogerly, and I serve as Vice President on USR's Board of Trustees. It's good to be with you this morning. One of the promises we make to each other in our shared covenant at USR is to support this congregation with our presence, our gifts and service, and to care for each other and the long-term well-being of our community. We like to remind you each Sunday that the caring team can be reached by calling the office and speaking to Anne. I have a few announcements. Carolyn Musser is again coordinating our postcard drive with Reclaim Our Vote. The next group is headed to Virginia. If you signed up for a pack of postcards, please see Carolyn. She's here today, and we hope to, here she is. Hello, Carolyn. We hope to pass on those packages today and save a delivery trip. During the month of April, we're sharing our collection plate, with Citizens for Swimming, a program of Camp YDP in Patterson. Citizens for Swimming provide children from the program with 9 days of water fun and Red Cross swimming lessons. They depend on monetary donations for discounted badges and busing, so please help with a generous contribution. You may send a check to the office, note citizens for swimming, give online through Realm, or put a little extra in the Sunday basket. I would now like to introduce Stephanie Gagnon to share the wrap-up of Souls for Souls here at USR. Thank you, Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. I went over to read this morning and saw an absolutely enormous pile of shoes. I've already packed up myself at my house over 500 pairs of shoes, so we're starting at 500, and whatever we have here is extra. I think you guys know last year we hit 1,700, so we'll see. We absolutely, I'm begging, this is begging for everybody's help today. There's jobs for everyone. There's jobs, you know, whatever your level of ability, how strong you are, I need everybody. We're gonna be boxing up the shoes, packing, labeling them, counting them. Something for everybody. My most impassioned plea is I've already been to the UPS store 7 times with my husband. We need people to take boxes home with them. It's gonna be a free shipping label. You literally put it at UPS, 3 boxes, whatever you can handle, you take them with you, you drop them off at the UPS store. There is nothing else to do. If I say free, you don't even, do you need a receipt? No, just drop it off, leave it there. But I really, really need people to take boxes at the end and help clean up because it's a lot to do. So appreciate everybody. Thanks for the donations. Looking forward to a great packing party. Thanks, Mary.
Very imaginative. Very nice. In a Washington Post editorial, the Monday following the 2021 insurrection on the Capitol, Hillary Rodham Clinton warned us against missing the dangers at its heart. For while the attack on our democracy was in many ways, in her words, the tragically predictable result of white supremacist grievances fueled by many in leadership, it is in reality part of something much bigger. She hearkened back to the results of the 9/11 Commission report exploring the failures that had created an opening for the terrorist attacks of 2001. The most important failure, they wrote, was one of imagination. We do not believe leaders understood the gravity of the threat. We are, Clinton urges us to understand, living through just such another failure of imagination today. Convicting one man or even hundreds of rioters will not be enough to preclude greater tragedy down the road. Our imagination has to be broad enough to see the disease behind and beyond symptomatic episodes. We all must look within. For imaginative failure leads to disunion, destruction, and death. In Isabel Wilkerson's Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents, an urgent and definitive examination of the race-based hierarchical system that is the very skeleton of the American body, she relates a conversation with esteemed historian of the civil rights movement, Taylor Branch. Branch narrows his diagnosis of the country's malaise to one question. If people were given the choice between democracy and whiteness, how many would choose whiteness? The ongoing banning, if not literal burning, of books across this country would suggest that the answer is, in Branch's words, more would choose whiteness than many are prepared to admit. I would venture that this is no revelation to people of color in this country. A lack of imagination leads to inadequate choices. The flip side is this: a sustaining richness of imagination can lead to unity of widening purpose, to a bright, glowing hope. Hearty imagination leads to community. This is no less true of a country than it is of a congregational body. Community requires imagination, and then a mutual commitment to one another and to the whole. And then accountability for our choices, plus practices of restoration when we inevitably fail to meet the marks we set for ourselves. And then community requires more imagination in order to amend those goals for greater inclusion. UU congregations, while perhaps racially less heterogeneous than the population, are actually hugely diverse collections of individuals, each with their own belief system, assumptions, and goals. And yet we worship together. Unitarian Universalism is thus a unique experiment in pluralistic religious community, and it's difficult work. Proto-Unitarian Michael Servetus, burned at the stake by order of John Calvin, wrote in a 1553 treatise, "It is harder to love than to believe." Believing alike is more easily achievable, at least among small groups of people. Believers are often held together by adherence to a creed, a statement in writing and frequently read aloud, listing required faith tenets. Loving alike is harder, for such loving exists not in the beliefs of individuals' hearts. Loving arises from choices made in the heart. Choices often expressed in a covenant, a set of mutually agreed upon promises for intended actions in community. While distance from creedal adherence often means disbarment from the group, slippage from covenant is baked in, always anticipated. Part of covenantal structure is an allowance for being called back in to covenant with love. My own understanding of covenant comes from vivid memories of the many years I was in charge of the youth group at the UU congregation of Princeton. Every September, a group of teenagers and advisors would sit down with a flip chart, easel, and Sharpies and draft the covenant that would guide our behavior for the coming congregational year. Among the perennial items on the list was the so-called Vegas rule. What happens in youth group stays in youth group, with built-in caveats also notated that any words of self-harm or incidences of property destruction in excess of $300 would have to be disclosed to the minister, parents, or guardians, and potentially municipal authorities. Yet with that rule, that Vegas rule, and all of our signatures of covenantal assent sharpied to paper, an atmosphere was created that allowed a sanctuary unlike any other in those high schoolers' lives, a place where they could be their most authentic selves, where a community could be forged that in several cases, because of the loving confidentiality it has secured, actually saved lives. Another vow, always on their covenant, was against crosstalk during check-in. Whomever had the floor held the floor and was not to be interrupted, not by disagreement, by suggestion, or even by approval. There were an encoded series of hand gestures that could signal solidarity or personal understanding. Now, did that vow always result in silence during check-in? Of course not. It never did, in fact. And I was often the silence breaker. Yet when crosstalk happened, a gesture could be made to our agreements hanging right there on the wall, indicating that it was time to return to covenant. Forgiveness for the breach was already granted, and check-in would proceed. At the congregational level, you also have covenants, likely in small group ministries, in religious education classes, in committees, among staff, as a congregational community. There's one hanging right there on the wall I see right here. Written down, accessible promises for your behavior, for your intentions, for how you aspire to live with one another on your best days. Your committee on shared ministry is akin to a guarantor and custodian of the congregational covenant, helping to maintain and mend breaches so that you can continue to live accountably into the promises you make to one another. But it is everyone's job to do so, everyone's job to guarantee. You are also in covenant with the larger UU Association of Congregations, the UUA, and the UUA bylaws, to which every congregation in the association vows to covenant. At the top of the second article, right after Article 1 establishes the name of the association, are the so far still 7 principles, language of which begins, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote," and then we have the principles. Importantly, at the end of Article 2 is a statement of clarification. Nothing herein shall be deemed to infringe upon the individual freedom of belief which is inherent in the Universalist and Unitarian heritages, or to conflict with any statement of purpose, covenant, or bond of union used by any congregation unless such is used as a creedal test. So covenant and creed are thus very different things. In fact, creeds, by expressed definition, at the heart of UUA bylaws, are held to be in breach of covenant. UU Minister Lisa Ward describes covenant as the framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, "I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming." This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. Word goes on to delineate the differences between a creed and a covenant. A creed creates static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. Sometimes we may arrive at a unison, but it is not required. A creed gives authority to the statement. A covenant gives authority to shared intention. A creed creates an us and a them. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasures of shared truth. Covenant is a vehicle of co-creation, shared voice, shared intention, shared relationship, shared truth. Covenant emphasizes the power of we. We need each other. And it takes all of us to be the us we aspire to be, ever widening the circles of our concern and our love and our commitment. The communal structures of tomorrow are built with many architects. There is no such thing as a perfect covenant. We can only aspire to a good enough for now standard. In youth group, the final entry on every year's covenantal agreement was, "This covenant is always amendable," allowing room for yet inchoate imagination. In 2021, both you, I believe, and the congregation I served entered into further covenant together, living accountably into the spirit and mandate of the 8th principle, which asks us to journey towards spiritual wholeness through actions that help dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions, to covenant to affirm and promote the spirit of an 8th principle as a lens for everything that we do. For the work of covenantal community is never finished. Our communities are only as strong as the imaginative power of their covenantal resolutions. Departing from covenant is not so much a problem, since human failing is a given, but an opportunity for growth and for redefinition. We realize that people make mistakes and sometimes fall short of the goals they have set, but we will support each other with love and continue to strive for a loving community and beyond. Covenant lives out the power of imaginative forethought. In closing, the story of a farmer who grew excellent quality corn. Every year, this farmer won the award for the best grown corn. One year, in a newspaper interview, it emerged that the farmer shared their seed corn with neighboring farms. How can you afford to share your best seed corn when your neighbors are entering corn in competition with yours every year? A reporter asked. The farmer replied, "Do you not know? The wind picks up pollen from ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. If my neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination will steadily degrade the quality of my corn. If I am to grow good corn, I must help my neighbors grow good corn." So it is with our lives. Those who want to live meaningfully must help enrich the lives of others. For the meaning of a life can be measured by the lives it touches, and the welfare of each is bound up with the welfare of all. In a workshop on all 8 of UU Monmouth County, where I serve, all 8 of our proposed covenanted principles, Paula Cole Jones reminded us that the words we speak and even the metaphors we use have consequences. In urging Unitarian Universalists to make a paradigm shift from thinking of our congregations as families to conceiving of them as communities of communities, Jones suggests that we are more complex than family metaphors can explain, and that thinking of ourselves as a family does not guard sufficiently against arriving at interpretations and conclusions with built-in biases around identity, culture, and power. She exhorted us that we can make a paradigm shift if we can imagine that there is a shift to make, in order ever more closely to approximate the beloved community about which we dream. We must use our imagination. May it lead us into ever widening circles of communities, all bound together by the promises they make to love, to learn, to grow, and never ceasing to imagine. Amen. Prior to becoming a minister, a large portion of my working life was devoted to performance of the great American popular songbook. So I just offer you a little gift of a gem that ran continually in my mind as I prepared to speak to you this morning. This is with music and lyrics by Cole Porter. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. You'll see such wonders if you do. Around you there lies pure enchantment in disguise, and endless joys you never knew. Behind every cloud there's a so lovely star. Behind every star there's a lovelier one by far. So use your imagination. Just take this motto for your theme, and soon every night will be crowded with delight, and every day will be a dream. So I invite us to sing our closing hymn, a setting of words by the second of that pair of brothers. We will hear now from Unitarian minister Samuel Longfellow Wadsworth's older brother, abolitionist Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. All are architects. It may be also not one that you do all the time, so you're gonna play through it again for us again? Perfect. Number 288 on the screen. Architects of faith, working in these walls. Do we say this together? Okay.
Please join in the words for extinguishing the chalice. They will be on the screen. We extinguish the flame, but may the hope of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
What a joy to have been among you. You will be gifted with 2 members of my congregation leading your April 28th service. The topic will be a significant Supreme Court case in which the UUA joined in a brief supporting the government's ability to limit domestic violence perpetrators possessing guns. So I know you will give Karen Gear and Jay Blotsky the warm Ridgewood welcome that you gave me. Our closing words come from astronaut Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space. Never limit yourself because of others' limited imagination. Never limit others because of your own limited imagination. Let us go in peace to bless the world.
Thank you.